survive rests on your shoulders, apprentice. You do not have to tell me what you found within that nexus in the dark ruins on Drumankas. Whatever you encountered there is for you. But your survival has once more proved that you have truly absorbed my lessons. You continually earn your place as Sith. Good. It is as it should be. It is time that we continued your lessons. When last we spoke, you learned of the Mandalorian Wars, of Lord Vitiate, and of the Way of the Minok. Now, it is time to continue your exploration of history. Remember, apprentice, failure to know history is failure to truly know the galaxy. It is time for us to speak of the conflict which would become known as the Second Sith War, the War for the Star Forge, or more simply, the Jedi Civil War. Accessing file, Jedi Civil War. Processing. The Mandalorian Wars ended with the defeat of Mandalore the Ultimate at the hands of Revan. While he was dying, the Tong would confess to the Jedi General that he had been a pawn all along, a tool wielded by a hidden Sith Empire to test the Republic. He pointed Revan towards the world of Rakad, and following the conclusion of the Battle of Malachor, he and his friend Malak would follow Mandalore's clues to the planet. There, the two would discover an ancient Sith tomb, which would point them towards the world of Drumankas. The two Jedi would then travel there, and after many weeks of infiltration, they would manage to find themselves before the Sith Emperor, Lord Vitiate himself. It is important to note, Revan and Malak had been on a dark path for a long time. The Mandalorian Wars had been very bloody. The two knights had been forced to make decisions which were more and more callous as the war progressed. They would sacrifice civilians and spend the lives of their soldiers with no regard, their vision focused only on victory. This constant warfare slowly but surely allowed the dark side to take hold within their hearts. To fall, sometimes, can be a subtle thing, built of many small concessions over a long period of time. Revan and Malak had conceded much in the name of the greater good. There, in the throne room on Drumankas, the pair would face the Emperor, a being of such vast dark side power that his continued applications of the Bogan created the very dark side nexus which you just survived. Vitiate was, in fact, so strong in the dark side that to simply be in his presence put them under a sustained assault from dark energy. You have felt something similar many times now, as you walked the valleys of Korriban, the halls of the Treyas Academy, and the ruins of the Dark Temple. After all that Revan and Malak had done, as far as they had traveled down the dark path, to face the Emperor was the final push over the edge. The two fully embraced the Bogan and knelt before Lord Vitiate as Emperor of the Sith. Vitiate proclaimed them Darth Revan and Darth Malak. He named Revan the Master and Malak the Apprentice, and then he sent the pair back to the Republic with a mission. Find the ancient Rakatan weapon known as the Star Forge. The pair would travel back to the world of Dantooine, where they had trained as young Jedi Padawans, and there they would find an ancient Rakatan device known into a greater whole. After visiting each one, the two fallen Jedi would finally find the Star Forge's position, and it was within the Lahan system, the ancient home system of the Rakatan Empire, deep in the unknown regions. The power of the Star Forge was immense. It pulled directly from Lahan's sun to fuel itself, but, as with most Rakatan technology, it also fueled itself with the dark side. The Forge was capable of creating an endless march of ships, droids, fighters, and weapons, and with it, Vitiate would be able to accelerate his plans for war against the Republic. But Revan and Malak would instead revolt. Revan would take the power of the Forge and declare himself Dark Lord of a new Sith Empire. Most of the forces that had followed him after the end of the Mandalorian Wars had sworn loyalty to him over the Republic, and these forces, armed with resources from the Star Forge, would strike against the Republic almost immediately. The Dark Lord planned to conquer the galactic government and unite their forces against Vitiate's Sith Empire. In order to fuel his war effort, Darth Revan would strike at the shipyards of Fornost in an echo of the raid executed by Olet Queldroma and Mandalore the Indomitable 40 years earlier. His forces would seize dozens of vessels from the Republic, giving Revan the combined forces he would need to execute a full war against the galaxy. However, the early war was a period which did not require much conflict. Many of the Republic's officers and officials remembered the heroic leadership Revan and Malak had shown during the Mandalorian Wars, and they readily joined with his new Sith Empire. While there was some fighting, large tracts of space would fall under Revan's control with no need for warfare. Pockets of Sith-controlled areas would pop up all over the galaxy, including in the core around important worlds, such as Corellia. Eventually, Revan's empire would come to control a third of the known galaxy, though much of this territory was discontinuous. These pocket areas would be areas under constant threat of Sith breakout during the war, though the Republic would contain them with several key victories. Conflict would truly begin to heat up when Admiral Saul Kareth openly defected to Revan's side. Saul's loyalty was tested right away. Darth Malak ordered the Admiral to attack and wipe out his own homeworld of Telos 4. Kareth would attack, and when the local government refused to surrender, he would bombard the world, completely destroying the environment and rendering Telos unlivable. The next big strike would come at the Zabrak homeworld of Iridonia. A massive battle would take place above the planet, ending in a Sith victory. However, the Republic, as ever, would cling on. They would win a key victory at Rhodia, and then go on a counterattack into the rest of the Outer Rim. They would also receive aid from the Jedi, especially a prodigy known as Bastila Shan. Bastila was a prodigy in battle meditation, the first such prodigy to grace the galaxy since Grandmaster Nomi Sunrider decades earlier. The young Padawan was able to help bolster the Republic military, but even so, they were fighting a losing battle. Revan's strategic mind was too much for them to overcome. And so, the Jedi Council concocted a plan. They would send Bastila and a small strike team of Jedi to capture Revan and Malak. The strike team would catch up to the Dark Lords, and in a pitched battle, Bastila and her men would fight their way to Revan's bridge. But before Darth Revan could cross blades with Bastila's would be fatally wounded in the attack, and Darth Malak would seize for himself the mantle of Dark Lord in the way of the Sith. But Bastila would use the Force to keep the flicker of life going within Revan, creating a powerful Force bond between the two. The Jedi would take Revan back to Dantooine, where they would heal his body. But the Jedi Council, in their hypocrisy, would also use their powers to break open Revan's mind. They would erase his memories as Revan. But, understanding that his knowledge of the Sith could perhaps be a resource, they planted him within the Republic military as a soldier under Bastila's command. Darth Malak, meanwhile, would redouble the conquest efforts. He was far from Revan's strategic equal, but he had the Star Forge and the will to do anything to win. He opened up the war across all fronts and ordered his men to hunt down and find Bastila. Darth Malak reasoned that her battle meditation was all that stood in his way, and that to ensure victory, he would have to capture or kill her. Eventually, his forces would catch up with her vessel, the Endar Spire, and they would bring it down over the skies of Terrace. Bastila, a mind-wiped Revan, and a Republic war hero known as Karth Onasi managed to escape the crash, though they would be scattered on the surface of Terrace as a result. Karth and Revan would search the city world for Bastila, eventually finding her a prisoner of a swoop gang known as the Black Vulcars. They would free her, and the event would send ripples through the criminal underworld of Taurus. A Mandalorian known as Canderous Ordo would reach out to the group, offering them a way off-world and through the Sith blockade that was still searching for Bastila. In orbit, Malak's frustrations grew the longer the search for Bastila dragged on. Finally, he decided to simply upend the entire board. He ordered his fleet to open fire on Taurus, bombarding it much the way many other worlds had been since the war began. The mighty city world of Taurus was completely destroyed. But Bastila, Revan, and their small party managed to escape the destruction by stealing a vessel from the exchange and breaking through the Sith blockade. Though his mind had been wiped, Revan was still Force sensitive. He unconsciously drew upon its power during the escape from Taurus, and this interaction caused him to begin to have dreams. He saw them as visions, but what they really were resurfacing memories. He would confide in Bastila about these dreams, and the group would make for Dantooine. Bastila would report all to the Council shortly after arriving there. The Jedi Council was divided over the possible resurgence of Revan. Some believed this was a sure sign that Revan was a threat, and others argued that he should be retrained as a Jedi, that their code was the only hope they had of preventing the Dark Lord from truly returning. Eventually, this latter group would win out, and Revan would become a Jedi Padawan for the second time in his life. He would progress through his training quickly, and on his final trial, he would rediscover the star map that he and Malak had visited so long ago. The discovery of this map was monumental. It clued the Council into the fact Darth Revan and Darth Malak had found something in the unknown regions which fueled their power. They would send Bastila after the other maps, and they would send Revan with her, hoping that his unconscious memories would lead them where they needed to go. And so, Revan and Bastila would retrace the pilgrimage first made by Darth Revan and Darth Malak. They would gather many allies along the way, and Revan's power would only continue by the Sith. Shortly after this, Admiral Saul Kareth would finally catch up to and capture Revan and Bastila. The two would manage to escape their cells aboard Kareth's flagship, but in the process of trying to flee, they would encounter Darth Malak. The Dark Lord would attack Revan, and the two would clash in an epic duel. Malak would reveal Revan's true identity during the course of the fight, but Revan's feelings for Bastila caused him to forgive her for what the Jedi had done to him. This enraged Malak, who redoubled his efforts to kill his former master. But Bastila would intervene in the duel, holding Malak at bay long enough for her friends to escape. While she would be captured, Revan would continue on to find the final star map. He would piece together the final location of the Star Forge, and he would once again set course for the Lahan system. There, he and his party would encounter the ancient homeworld of the Rakata and make their way on board the Star Forge itself. There, they would encounter Bastila, fallen to the dark side through Malak's torture. Her and Revan would duel, but Revan would refuse to kill her. He would admit his love for her, and his feelings would pull Bastila back from the clutches of the Bogan. The pair would then face and defeat Darth Malak, and the Star Forge would be destroyed, breaking the power of Revan's empire for good. But this was not the end for Revan. He would face the council who had wiped his mind, fully in control of his memories, but redeemed. They would hail him as a hero of the Republic and accept him back into the Jedi Order in full. But Revan would never quite settle back into the role of Jedi Knight. For one, he would marry Bastila and they would have 2 children. For another, he was still plagued by visions in his sleep. Visions he now knew were memories. They spoke to a greater evil lurking somewhere in the unknown regions, one just beyond the reaches of his memory. Eventually, he could stand it no longer. He knew there was one more thing he needed to accomplish before he could truly have peace. Revan would leave Bastila and his children and set off on the hunt for Lord Vitiate. But that is a story for our next lesson, my apprentice, when we speak of Revan and the nature of true destiny in detail. For now, it is important to note that the Jedi Civil War rocked the galaxy to its core. The very name of the conflict itself speaks to this fact. Faith in the Jedi hit an all-time low, as many blamed them for the suffering and destruction which had left most of the galaxy in ruins. The Republic was a shattered mess, their military shredded, and their fleets a shadow of what they once were. Dozens of worlds had been rendered completely unlivable. Entire species had been snuffed out. Beings from all worlds were exhausted, war-weary to the extreme. A new Supreme Chancellor was elected, Chancellor Tal Kressa, on a platform of reconstruction and on promises of peace. And the Republic would try to rebuild. Several projects, such as the Telos Restoration Project, would be put into motion with the goal of reviving destroyed worlds. They would try to rebuild their fleet and restore economic prosperity, but they would face challenges on all sides as local powers took advantage of the weakened central government to press their own goals, and as large corporations did the same. It was a period of struggle for the given their place in the galaxy, their duty to protect the Republic, and their stance as servants of that institution. They would call a conclave on the Cathar world of Qatar, hoping to bring the remaining Jedi together to decide the future of their order. But this was not to be. The Jedi had been left so devastated by their recent conflicts that they failed to sense the darkness that was coming for them. Their combined presences acted as a lure, drawing a terrible evil from Malachor. Revan's empire had been defeated, but the Sith had not been vanquished. Darth Treya, the figure known as Kreia the Wise, and Revan's old master, had been teaching two Sith Lords within the walls of the Treyas Academy, and creating an army of Sith assassins. Her apprentices, Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain, and Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger, would overthrow her, and free from her control, Nihilus was unable to resist the pull of so many powerful Force sensitives in one place. You see, Darth Nihilus was a unique individual, a Jedi scarred by the Mandalorian Wars and the tragedy at Malachor so badly that he had become a wound in the Force. Darth Treya had seen a potential advantage in this wound, and had taught Nihilus the art of Force Drain. She honed this skill within him, taught him to use his internal pain as a catalyst to become something more, and so he had become consumed by hunger. He needed to constantly absorb Force essence to survive, and powerful Force auras drew him as a moth is drawn to the flame. The Jedi Conclave on Qatar was destroyed before they even knew what was happening. So powerful and so sudden was Nihilus' attack that he consumed the life from the entire world before the Jedi could do anything to stop him. Very few Jedi had not answered the call to Conclave, but some had survived. However, those lucky enough to escape Nihilus' hunger were soon hunted from the shadows by Darth Sion's wrath. Darth Sion had been taught by Treya to use his pain to fuel his anger and thus the dark side within him, and to let those dark energies sustain his broken body far beyond the point of death. He was nearly unkillable, a perfect weapon, and he would use the army of assassins Darth Treya had created to begin hunting down and destroying the remaining Jedi. These two events together would leave under a dozen Jedi left across the entire galaxy, and would be known collectively as the First Jedi Purge. The Order was all but destroyed, and into this fragile galaxy returned a figure that was once close to Revan, his old lieutenant, Mitra Surik. She had cut herself off from the Force to survive the trauma of Malachor, and had wandered as an exile from the Jedi Order ever since. Darth Treya, overthrown, and now once again going under the name of Kreia, would hear of Surik's return to known space, and would seek her out. The old woman would eventually catch up to Surik, and would rekindle the Force within her. She would tell Mitra of Darth Sion, and eventually of Darth Nihilus, and she convinced the young Jedi that she had to find the remaining Jedi survivors and help save the Order from destruction. Surik would embark on a journey across the galaxy in search of the few masters who had survived the Purge. They were hiding on remote worlds, or worlds overrun with life. Along the way, she would discover and train several other Force sensitives helping to create a new generation of Jedi Padawans. Surik would eventually find Master Vrook, Master Zez-Kael, Master Atris, and Master Kavar, and she would get them to agree to meet on Dantooine. It was then that Darth Traya made her move. She would ambush Vrook, Zez-Kael, and Kavar when the three gathered in the ruins of the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine, slaying them and leaving Mitra unconscious. Atris would reveal herself to be tainted by the dark side, and Darth Traya would draw Nihilus to the world of Telos in an attempt to have him destroyed by the Republic. Telos was in the process of being rebuilt, and a massive space station was in orbit around the planet. Nihilus would attack this station, hoping to drain it to satisfy his hunger, the same as he had done at Qatar. But he would be met by Mitra, who had traveled there to stop Nihilus, and she would defeat him for good in the skies above the planet, just as Darth Traya had intended. Surik would then track her former friend back to Malachor, where she would discover the Trayus Academy on the surface. There, Mitra would defeat both Darth Sion and Kreia the Wise. She would reactivate the mass shadow generator, the same weapon she had used to destroy the Mandalorians. This time, however, the generator would crush the planet into an unrecognizable mass, reducing the Trayus Academy to ruins. As you have seen for yourself, my apprentice. Mitra would then help to re-establish the Jedi Order, using her new apprentices to start a new force of Jedi Knights. She would make sure her new order was well established, and then she would follow her friend Revan into the unknown regions, seeking to help him in his hunt for the greater evil that had driven both his time as Dark Lord and the wars that followed. This would bring an end to the conflicts known as the Jedi Civil War. The war did not mean the same to the average citizen as it did to the Jedi and Sith. Revan was a war hero, a known Jedi Knight. When he returned to wage his war of conquest, the people did not see Sith and Jedi as different. They were two shades of the same thing, followers of the same religion who disagreed on interpretation. It would take many years for the Jedi's reputation to recover. And we must remember, these wars were only the opening salvo in a conflict which had been orchestrated over the course of centuries. As terrible as the Jedi Civil War was, it was merely a prelude to a far more terrible event. It left the Republic weak, the Jedi a shadow of their former selves, and it helped provide vital strategic information to Lord Vitiate, waiting and watching from afar. What lessons can be learned from this conflict? What value can be pulled from so much destruction and death? That is a hard question to answer, my apprentice. Did you think I had all the answers? No one does, and those who claim as such are charlatans. The Jedi Civil War was a complicated time. There were forces driving things on so many different levels, it can be difficult to discern the truth of things. Perhaps this is the best lesson to learn here today. Sometimes there is no right answer. The Jedi Civil War was, from a big picture, nothing more than a minor machination in a much grander plan. But it was also more than that, a defining moment not just for the Jedi, but for figures such as Revan and Malak. Destiny flowed so strong around these figures that we cannot discount that the Force itself had a hand in the course of events. You have learned the lessons of Kreia the Wise and of Darth Sidious the all-powerful, you know that destiny can be discerned and manipulated. But that discernment is almost never easy, and sometimes it can be next to impossible. What to do during such a time? If faced with destiny so overwhelming it defies your explanation or any of your plans, what do you do? How do you deal with situations which can only be described as a mess? That shall be our next lesson, when we finally examine a figure who has been at the heart of these last few lessons. In the meantime, you must continue your training. Set course for Lahan, the far-flung home of the ancient Rakata. The Starforge has long gone, but the power of the dark side will be forever strong in that place. Go there, train, meditate within the dark energies that swirl still around Lahan's star, and I will unlock the next lesson when you are ready. Until then, may the Force break your chains